I got this recipe from a magazine. Now, the mail got wet in the rain, so some of the pages ran together. But what I couldn't read, I just improvised with my own little creative ideas. It's got raisins in it. You like raisins.
Want to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Master the Art of Connecting and professional speaker Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on the planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, we have one tough cookie. This individual has built successful sales teams in various industries. Knowing that entrepreneurial ventures only succeed with a purpose, he purchased Dirty Dough, a single location cookie company. I'm going to let him share with you what the company is all about and its incredible purpose. But what I will share is that in just 4 months under his leadership, the company grew to over 50 stores in 4 months. Thrive Loud listeners, I hope you brought your sweet tooth because we got Bennett Maxwell here on Thrive Loud. Bennett, how are you today?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for the intro.
So I gave a huge teaser here. So here's what I want to do. I want to give a little bit of a rewind. I don't want to go all the way back to the womb. Where I want to go is kind of understand, first of all, has entrepreneurship always been like in your blood and your thing?
Yeah, for sure. Since I was little, I was selling the candy bars on the corner. We did shaved ice stands on the corner, lemonade stands. Yeah, all of that started in elementary.
So you carried that forward into your professional life. Let's find a little bit out about you and understand what got you into this gig. How did this gig come to be?
The cookies. How did I get into that?
Dirty dough.
Okay, so early 2019, I was looking into Crumble. If you've ever heard of that,
yes, I have.
Really
actually.
Strong. Yeah, really strong franchise brand, and they were doing really good. They still are. And I was looking to buy a franchise, but I was already doing in Utah. Everybody calls it summer sales. You just go sell for 4 or 5 months in the summer, but it's a fun job. You only work a few months of the year. Anyway, so I was looking at continuing to do that to keep a good income, but I wanted to add to that income with a franchise. Well, that just wasn't their model. You had to be owner operated, and on top of that, they were already sold out of the state of Utah, so I had to move out, give up my career in sales to go run a cookie company. And I told myself, I don't want to make cookies my career. That's not what I'm going for. But it got me interested. And then Dirty Dough was started by a guy that I went to high school with that had moved down to Arizona, and he was doing delivery only from his apartment. And he's like, I'm looking for some money to start, an actual retail storefront. So that's when I came in and I invested. And then I just moved to San Diego. I started doing solar, and I started a solar company. And then Crumble came to San Diego, and lines out the door around the corner. So I had asked the owner of Dirty Dough to franchise it. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to be your first franchisee. This is going to be great. San Diego is a killer market, all of that. And anyways, long story short, at the end of the day, he didn't end up franchising. And he said, I'm burnt out. I'm looking to sell it. So then that was, definitely shook what I was trying to do, because I'm like, I'm full-time, I'm running a solar business. And then it kind of hit me, hey, if I'm able to buy this cookie company out of Arizona, I don't have any food experience, I live in San Diego, and I'm running a solar company. If I could make this model work, that's the model that I was looking for 3 years ago, right? Or 2 years ago, whenever that was. And there's a lot of other people like me. So I kind of jumped in because of that. So Crumble kind of got me interested, showed me what I wanted, what I didn't want. And then I had the opportunity, if I were to own the company, Dirty Dough, then I could build a model, and make it as easy as possible. So that's what I've strived to do since we've purchased it. I purchased it last January. So yeah.
So and listeners need to know this. This is like, right after the pandemic, 2021 in January when you buy it. And
yeah,
let's literally get into the, into the ingredients here. let's share with the listeners what the dirty dough cookie looks like. Because by the way, I'm using this as part of the artwork here for this episode,
Okay.
because you guys have to understand what this cookie looks like. Share what's going on in the dirty dough cookie.
So looking at the competition, how are we going to differentiate ourselves? And Crumble does these weekly rotating flavors, and some other companies do as well, but they really focus on heavy frostings and heavy toppings on top of the cookie. And I'll get into the cause and all of that later, but we wanted to focus on what's on the inside of the cookie. And we didn't want the perfect looking cookie because of the mental health stuff. Again, we could get into that in a little bit later. So we want to do these multi-layered cookies. So you look at one of our cookies and it looks like a peanut butter cookie. And then you break it open and there's chocolate dough on the inside. Then in the very center, you have, Reese's peanut butter coming out, or hot fudge or something like that. So these are multi-layered, 3-layer cookies that really don't exist anywhere else, that are just really fun cookies. On the back end, though, it's very, very profitable and streamlined, because it's all manufactured centrally. And then it also kind of gave rise to the nonprofit that we're doing.
Okay, so let's go there, because this is what caught my attention and what I thought our Thrive Lab listeners would love about. Share with the listeners kind of the purpose, as we talked about a purpose-filled company that you were very much behind, but the purpose of this, and obviously a phenomenal analogy, but also a really important cause that is very central to what a lot of people are dealing with and need to, be more made more aware of, and jump into that, Bennett.
Yeah. About that same time, early 2019, I listened to a podcast, Jonathan Haidt. He's a psychologist. And I've been fortunate enough to I've never struggled with a mental health illness, but I'm listening to this podcast, and statistically speaking, I had a daughter that was 2 at the time and a newborn daughter. They are twice as likely to go to the hospital because of self-harm than they were 10 years ago. And it's like, why? And what do you do with that? And a lot of that is attributed to this. I'm, a normal person, and I'm going to compare myself with your picture perfect life on Instagram. And I'm going to make that unfair comparison to myself. So anyways, once Dirty Dough came about, and we started going with the what's on the inside that matters most. I'm like, this is a really positive message. What do I do? How do I help my daughters with confidence and let them know that life doesn't need to be perfect for it to be enjoyed? And then it's like, that's what Dirty Dough is about. So you walk into a Dirty Dough store, on the back, it says, what's on the inside matters most. And on all of our boxes, it says proudly unique inside and out. And we're doing bumper stickers or like window stickers on cars that have all these fun, positive messages of like, life is dirty and messy, but it's meant to be enjoyed, just like these cookies.
Yeah.
So we started going with that. And then one thing led to next, and then we started I guess we're still in the process of doing our nonprofit, and we're creating wellness centers. So my focus on the mental health is not addressing mental health illness per se, but just mental health in general. Yeah. Trying to be proactive with mental health, rather than anytime I tell somebody what I'm doing, typically the response is, oh, I have a family or a relative that has anxiety and depression. I'm like, if I told you that I was focused on physical health, are you going to tell me that you have a family or friend that's overweight? No, you're not. Mental health, we go straight towards the negative and just the illnesses. And I want to change that. I want it to be proactive. Just like we go to the gym a few times a week, we need to be working on our mental health a few times a week, because our mental health, at the end of the day, that's what's going to allow us to live fulfilled, joyful lives, which is my personal mission statement, and now the mission statement of Dirty Dough.
We're going to give a shout out here. Recent guest on the program, we had Kate Donovan, who was the host of Fried, the Burnout podcast. And we discussed just the increased amount of people not dealing with burnout and stress from the work that they have, which is obviously both a physical and a mental capacity, and all the other, to your point, higher suicide rates, a lot of depression, a lot of issues, maybe because the speed of life in business these days is getting hard for our brains to wrap around, and for us to really be more conscious and aware of it. Or that's another thing, is there definitely is a growing awareness and understanding that mental health is a real thing. And that stat that you gave about your daughter's likelihood to harm themselves is really, just awful. And by the way, now the fact that we get to combine this with a wonderful message and a very on point about a kind of a messy cookie, which is really good and looks absolutely delicious. Here's my question for you. You were running a solar company, and now all of a sudden you decide that you want to dive in and follow this passion and take one location place and franchise it. One, are you still doing the solar company? And two, are you do you have this many balls in the air that you're juggling? Okay.
So I sold the solar company June of 2021. So I ran them both for about 6 months, got out of solar to dive full time into this. I brought on an advisor, and anyways, he's like, you can't have your hands in two pots. Like you got to get out 100%. So part of the sell of the company, I got a decent amount of stock and a salary to stay on, and I left all of that just to dive full time into Dirty Dough, and I'm definitely glad I did. Loved solar, but I love what I'm doing now even more.
Okay, so now let's talk about this. Taking one location and doing a franchising, not only finding the right people, I know you're calling me on business from Texas right now. Talk about what the growth and the spawning of how you've been able to spread out and get Dirty Dough into the hands of a lot of other people to help grow this franchise.
Yeah. The model and the team is what allowed us to sell so many franchises with one corporate location that I didn't even create. If you walk into our Tempe store, which is the one I purchased, and the store that just opened a week ago in Vineyard, Utah, you don't think it's the same company. Different colors, different branding, different layout, different recipes, different logo, like everything. We redid everything professionally. But really, it started with the team. I mentioned an advisor was helping us. John Richards, he had taken his company public called InfoSpace, multiple billions of dollars, and has since then been an investor or advisor in a few other, hundreds of millions to $1 billion. So getting the right people. And then we got Steve Hart on our advisory board, who's largest property management franchisor.
Yeah.
And he's been super helpful. And now Eric Van Horn with Franchise Secrets podcast. He's the third member of our advisory board. So building up a strong advisory board. And then it's, okay, well, I've never been in food before. I can either learn it all or I can hire somebody. And our first big hire was Jill Summer Hayes, who started Maui Wowie Smoothies and Coffee.
Ooh.
She grew that to just under 700 locations, ran it for 35 years, and then sold it. And then took another company 0 to 90 in a few years. So I'm like, okay, I need somebody like that. So Jill came on as CEO in December. That was right when we filed our franchise documents. So a lot of it was like, this team believes in us. Like, yes, we're new concept, but look how much experience this new concept has. Yeah. So that was part of it. And then the other part of it, I think, was just the model. It was, how come these giant, there's this giant cookie craze, but it's mainly for these giant cookies every single week. The flavors rotate and all of that. Really good model, high sales. Yeah. And then you look at like a Mrs. Fields model or an Insomnia cookie model or a Great American Cookie model that they've been around for 20, 30, 40 years. And how are they doing that? So can we replicate this high sales model of a giant warm cookie served fresh, delivered to your door, baked fresh every single hour, with every single week there's brand new flavors, but also take advantage of the robust system of like the Mrs. Fields, Insomnia Cookie, Great American Cookie, which is all about 1 or 2 employees, small square footage, low overhead, low waste.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And the way that they can do that is centralized production. So we centrally produce all of our cookies. We get large discounts on flour, sugar, butter, because it's all centrally produced. We mix hundreds of cookies at a time rather than 60, 70. And then we run it through this machine that allows us to make these very unique 3-layer cookies. Those are then shipped out to each store to be baked fresh, every hour on site. So a lot of it was, hey, we can operate out of half the square footage of the competition with half the labor and much less than half the waste, while still having this crazy looking cookie that every single week we bring something new. So that's kind of the model that we're going for.
Yeah.
Between the model and the team, I think that's where we're at. So we did 65 franchises before we opened up our first franchise. We sold 65 franchises.
Oh, wow.
And by Tuesday, yeah. And so that was just 2 weeks ago. We just opened up the first franchise, and it's doing really well. And then by Tuesday, because we have a bunch of scheduled signings on Tuesday, we'll be over 90 franchises.
That's amazing. So this is a great start. So you got the one location, and let's talk about the recruitment of your franchisees. And that is, are they coming and checking out the operation themselves and seeing it, and then they're taking on this thing and bringing it to their local cities?
Yeah.
Okay.
The model is so simple. It's kind of like, hey, come to the store and I'll train you on how to put cookies in the oven, and within an hour, I'll teach you how to fold boxes, you use the point of sale system and put a pre-portioned cookie puck in the oven. And it's really that simple. So somebody would come in and be like, okay, after an hour, 85% of what there is to know in the business. Right. There's a few other things that we'll go over, but they came in and they saw it for themselves. And then most of the people that are buying franchises are buying 3 or 5 or 10 or a dozen, whatever. But yeah, it's definitely, the proof is in the pudding. Like, I'll just train you on it. Just come in. I'm a dummy. I know how to do it.
Okay. So I'm going to get to the cookie in a minute here, but I want to talk about this experience. And this is rapid fire. If I'm doing the math here from the time that you got in this. One, can you believe how quickly this is taking on? That's my first question. Let's ask it. Can you believe how, because this is happening pretty fast.
It is quick.
Is this ahead of your schedule? Tell me your thoughts about how you're feeling about all this.
So this centralized production, I signed a lease to build out our production warehouse in November. And I signed a lease on a spot thinking that it would do about 20, 25 stores, something like that. And I'm like, that'll give me a year or two to grow into it. Like, I knew we were going to grow quick, but not that quick. Before the warehouse was built out with the production, we had not only outsold it, we doubled the sales of which it could produce. And right now it's just people fighting over territory and us trying to filter, who's going to be the best franchisees and who's aren't going to be definitely a lot quicker than what we thought.
Okay. So now comes the interesting part, because I do know that, and maybe this works to your advantage because you have the franchisees there. To your point about food, every state has a lot of rules about, how getting their food licenses and all of that, and when they distribute. And obviously there is a little bit of a challenge, because I'm sure this cookie you have might not be the healthiest thing in the world compared to obviously other things. Explain maybe that aspect of what you've learned, even in just dealing with the one location at that point, and what the franchisees might be looking at and facing as they're marketing this. As great as the cause is, we're still dealing with a cookie.
Yeah. The message is it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to be perfect. And this got internalized with me when I sold my solar company, because I'm 29. So this was last year. I was 28. And I had this, I'm a hard worker, and I'm always, trying to be the best at whatever I'm trying to do, and telling myself I'm sacrificing time. I'm working the weekends, working after 5, because I'm going to get XYZ. In my case, it was $1 million. And then life's going to be perfect, right? So I sell my solar company and I feel ecstatic. Like, it's great. But guess what happens after a week or two? You go back to your normal level of happiness. And you thought, and not only did I go back to my normal level of happiness, I found myself working those weekends still and working after 5. And I have a beautiful family. I got 3 young kids. I got a beautiful wife. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying to all of a sudden now go for the next goal? So the message with Dirty Dough got centralized with me of, we need to find joy in the journey, right? Not in the fulfillment of some future goal. So anyways, that's the messaging of Dirty Dough, and it's okay to have a cookie. Yeah. Don't go.
It certainly is.
but it's okay to have a cookie. You don't need to have the perfect life, the perfect body, all of that. Let's be healthy though, right? Mentally and physically.
Okay. I now want to dive into this. You love how, explain to the listener, because this is a different type of cookie you're eating. This isn't like when we're holding in your hand. This has got this big messiness. The first time you ever had a bite of this stuff, tell me what it was like.
Oh, it was, these things are like this thick. We've changed them around.
Listener, he's showing with his hands. It's like, I'm not kidding you. We're talking like, it's like 4 to 5 inches. Is that about right? 3 to 4 inches high or something like that?
Maybe 2 to 3 now.
2 to 3 inches high. Okay, fine.
They're a third of a pound, so they're fat, and they're really gooey in the middle. It's like they're cooked up to temperature 160 degrees, so there's no issues there. but it's definitely a softer cookie. And it was like, wow. And then I tried it with some ice cream, and I'm like, all right, this is freaking great. A cold ice cream with this warm giant cookie. It was just such a good kind of feel good product, like, man, I feel good right now.
Love it. I love asking entrepreneurs this question, specifically people as innovative and as young, as energetic as you. Look, you've been thriving in your businesses with the solar. You wanted something and see a passion of this. And you're not only bringing it to life, but you're marrying it with a really good cause and something that everyone needs to be made aware of, which means you're thriving on most days. However, Bennett, as you know, we're not always kicking on all cylinders all day. Sometimes we need more of that cookie than we'd like to. On the days that you're not thriving, what practice do you seek, or maybe which individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Part of this nonprofit is implementing these practices that I've used on myself and that I'm still learning, and building wellness centers in schools. So K through 12, we're calling them up. Hey, we want to convert one of your old classrooms to a wellness center. We'll fund it. We'll provide the program, and you guys just need to staff it. Just have somebody there. But what's happening in these wellness centers is to teach kids how to answer that question. So like what I do personally, if it's a bad day, it's like, I'll go to meditation, I'll sit in a quiet room and get my mind off of this fake problem that I have. Because usually it's a fake problem. Like anxiety is stressing about something that hasn't happened and probably won't happen. So how do we learn to live in the present? And, there's different exercises with different meditation or breathing exercises. And you breathe correctly, your physiological state changes. You feel different, you move different. And there's just different things. So these wellness centers, you come in, you grab there's a wellness coach there, but you can grab a tablet and you can learn about letting go of the past and not stressing about the future by being present. So these different, techniques, there's a lot of different things that you can do that I'm still learning, that I still don't know the answers to, right? The few that I do know is going through the breathing exercises, through the meditation, or playing out some scenarios like what is actually the worst thing that can happen. Yeah. And it's funny, our brain plays out a worse than worst case scenario. Like anyways, and then we stress about it. And it's like, wait, worst case scenario actually isn't that bad. And I'm not in danger and I'm going to survive. And when you can step back, reflect, and look at that, then it puts everything in perspective. You're like, okay, I could keep going.
I like it. Let's do the admin part of the show. And I've got a big piece here. Share with the listeners where people can learn online about Dirty Dough, or any of the digital places that are there that they could learn about you as well. And share where you've got a lot of franchises. Throw out some cities and some places that they can be on the lookout for Dirty Dough.
Awesome. So me personally, you can follow me, BennettMaxwell.com, BENNETT, and then MAXWELL. I try to post every day on all social media platforms. So try to provide as much value as I can in business and also family life. And then DirtyDoughCookies.com is our website where you can inquire about franchising. As far as cities go, we have 30 something opening up in Utah, a dozen more in Arizona, some in Vegas, a handful up in Idaho, another dozen or so in Colorado. And then we just did some more in Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati, lots of other areas to come. I mean, Texas is one of the ones that we're going to put up about a dozen. Next week is what we're closing on in Texas. So kind of all over. We've had inquiries all over. It's really been crap. We don't have this staff to support it. On Monday, 5 days ago, we hired a full-time salesperson. So hopefully he can get to all of our inquiries and help us expand and spread the message of what we're doing.
It's exciting. I was hoping it would get further east on the East Coast, but when it does, you call me up, man. I'll be in line. I'm checking.
Yeah.
When the listeners see the image I'm going to put in the artwork here, you're going to be like, "Shut up, come on!" So it's really good stuff. You ready to go down Fun Street with me, Bennett?
Let's do it.
Okay. Share with the listeners what is maybe one or a select. Give me one of your all-time favorite movies that you love to watch.
Oh, all-time favorite movies. First one that just came to our mind is Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, so good.
Love a good comedy movie of people just acting a fool. And anyways, no, I love that movie.
Okay. I want you to share with the listeners our speed round special. This is how this works. I'm going to ask you something. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good. They basically make you thrive. You ready?
Yes.
I'm going to flip the order around, specifically culminate at a high point here related to this topic. Okay. Of late, a song that you love to listen to, or maybe one that pumps you up.
A song that I like to listen to. Man, I'm a podcast guy. I'm going to be listening to
What show are you listening
No,
to? That's good. What shows are you listening to? What are you listening to these days?
I like the Joe Rogan podcast a lot.
He's
definitely. Andy Frisell is a good business podcast.
Yeah.
Sam Harris is the meditation guy that I listen to. He's not a meditation guy per se, but he's a neuroscientist, and I love his podcast. Jordan Peterson as well. Those are some of my top podcasts.
Okay. An activity you wish you did more of?
Pickleball. I played that every day in San Diego. Every single day I went, and now I'm back in Utah. Just moved back maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and I haven't got back into it.
An activity you wish you did less of?
An activity I do less of. TV shows. Coming home at night.
Got it.
Lately, I've been doing stand-up comedy off of Netflix and going through all those specials.
A favorite food that is not a dessert?
A favorite food that's not a dessert. Some good steak, teriyaki steak.
Favorite dessert?
I have to say dirty dough cookies.
Okay, now there we go. Double click on this. What is your favorite type of dirty dough cookie that you had? Flavor?
Okay. So we redid a ton of our recipes professionally. Anyways, of the new recipes, the toaster tart, it's kind of like a Pop-Tart cookie, sugar cookie with a little bit of white icing, some sprinkles on it. And then in the center, it's filled with a full ounce of raspberry filling.
Amazing. If I could snap my fingers, Bennett, you could be anywhere in the world. Where are you?
We just got back from Greece, so that's what came to my mind.
Nice.
It was beautiful place.
Bennett Maxwell, he's one tough cookie, and everybody needs to check out Dirty Dough. It's coming to a town near you very quickly, and I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. So thanks again. It meant continued success to you. Hope everything goes well. And if there one is in my neighborhood, I'm popping in. Sound like a plan?
Awesome. Yes. Much appreciated.
Maybe when you start franchising around here, I might want to get involved on this.
There we go.
Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.